Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of This Just In Radio. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. Today we're broadcasting live from Tampa, Florida, and the Moffitt Cancer Center. We have a very special show as our next installment in our Cancer Innovation Series. Many thanks to longtime friends Dr. Kamal Jethwani and Dr. Nainesh Parikh for the invitation and opportunity to be here. We're about to embark on a series of episodes focused on cancer care, innovation, patient outcomes, and survivorship. I hope you find all these episodes as enlightening, as encouraging as me. Welcome back to This Just In Radio Show, broadcasting live from the Tampa Palms Country Club and the Moffitt Cancer Center. I'm happy to have my guests, Dr. Kamal Jethwani, Moffitt's Vice President of Digital Ventures and the CEO of AccelerOnc, and Dr. Nainesh Parikh, Moffitt's Chief Clinical Expansion and Partnerships Officer. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We have a great segment now. We're going to cover the CancerX cohorts and the innovation that you guys are helping launch. So I'm very excited about this, the accelerator that you guys help lead. I know there's just a session, I believe in Charlotte at Advocate, where you guys had announced the winners in that cohort. So first, let's take a moment, Kamal, explain a little bit more about this cohort, what you guys are doing with CancerX and the innovation here.
So this was CancerX's third accelerator cohort. We launched this program several years ago. And the idea was that we wanted our health systems and our pharma companies to have a safe and effective way to test out new solutions and do it in a way that's pretty organized and standardized, and then be able to identify the right solution so that they can actually bring them in and implement them. We wanted this to be a matchmaking type of function, right? That's kind of what we're doing. On the startup side, we wanted to give these startups an exposure to their customers. We wanted to give them a chance to co-build and co-create with these customers and actually be able to figure out if there's a there from a business model perspective and a value proposition perspective. Our very first cohort a few years ago, we experimented with this and we found serendipitously that actually the model really works. Mm-hmm. The matchmaking works, and we found that we created almost 12 to 13 deals in a 4-month period for our 15 companies, which to us, for round number one, was really incredible,
awesome.
Right?
Yeah, that's great success.
Our champions came back, our champion organizations came back and they said, now I understand what you're doing. Now let me tell you what I want, right? And so what we introduced at that time was we introduced doing more sort of aggressive relationship building within these organizations. So we would go in within, like for an Advocate or Moffitt or AstraZeneca, and meet with multiple stakeholders to figure out what their unmet needs were, and then attract companies that met those unmet needs. So cohort number 2 got even better. We got 30 deals instead of 15, right? Mm-hmm. And then this year was cohort number 3, which we're, I think, most proud of. We have 12 companies that came in. Mm-hmm. We have 16 champion companies that sort of helped them out. And we're seeing some pretty incredible results. So about 35 deals or potential deals that have been created in a 4.5-month period. Close to $80 million of funding figured out, either raised or committed, based on our cohort and our investors. 55 mentorship relationships created, and this is something that we are working really hard on. But what's most interesting, and mentors are people who are individuals from these companies that don't have as much power to bring these solutions within their own companies, but are industry leaders otherwise. Right. And what we noticed this year was that on average, each startup ended up getting matched to about 5 mentors, and each of those mentors got them about 2 to 3 additional opportunities outside of the organizations that were championing them.
Right.
So if you think about that, right, like this is the best chief growth officer you could ever get.
Right.
is my goal is like
right.
Your best CGO is CancerX, because we're going to get you so many deals. We're going to get it signed. We're going to get the pilots done. And I can say that we're probably safely the best oncology AI accelerator out there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything you want to add to that, Nine?
No, I'm the reason I'm looking at my phone so much is because I had the presentation pulled up with all the stats to add anything else, and for some reason I'm not getting it right now. But I think suffice it to say, each year we've got successively stronger, both in the quality of the applicants, and all applicants I think have plenty of quality, but I think the point is these companies are ones that really understand how they will benefit from the accelerator. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that, the first year we had very large companies, we had very small companies. And now we're seeing the companies really glom together to be prepared to actually, benefit from it. I think the second thing I would say is the number of engagements that occurred even after the initial selection process. So just to go through very quickly, this year for the next cohort, we'll be putting out the application process in August. We'll be asking for people to submit their applications.
This is perfect timing then.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're finalizing the themes in the next month, and then in August we'll do the call for applications, and then we'll select with 70 or 80 actual people across the 15 champions that he talked about, champion organizations. We'll select the cohort, and that happens basically between October and December, and then we announce at JP Morgan. The point is that process has, there's a selection period whereby companies have to self-identify within one of our 4 themes. They then have to do a pitch, and then you've got to have at least 2 champion organizations saying, we want to mentor and be involved with that group. What's fascinating is, yes, we had the 12 companies that were already part of the cohort in 2026, but to Kamal's point, I think 30 or 40 relationships developed after the initial application process, which means that at Moffitt Innovation Day in late February or early March, even after Charlotte, which was the graduation showcase, you see relationships continue to develop throughout the ecosystem, which I think speaks to the quality of the participants and of that ecosystem within CancerX. And at all points throughout, we had a day in Rush, we had a day at AstraZeneca, as Kamal said. We've got multiple in-person and virtual events. And just the more that ecosystem gets involved with all of these companies, it's not just a pilot. It's around research. It's around grant applications. It's around funding.
Absolutely.
The more all of that starts to really get supercharged.
So I love it. And so following on that train of thought, what are some of the early signals that you look for in these early stage companies that tell you they're ready to engage a major cancer center like Moffitt or one of the other organizations, right?
Sure.
AMCs?
So shameless plug again for not just the accelerator, but the overall CancerX process. This year, we, I think, as a team, and I'll give Kamal special credit, but I think together we really thought about this as a leadership team and the steering committee within CancerX. We came up with the cybersecurity mark, right?
Okay.
And what that really represents is the opportunity for companies to engage with CancerX and with our leading cybersecurity partners to figure out how they can basically tick off a set of requirements and then go to any of the CancerX organizations and say, hey, listen, we've got the Clearwater cybersecurity mark, which means we're ready to go within your system. You don't need to do additional due diligence, which is key because that saves probably 3 months, 6 months, even 8 months.
Yes.
The point is those companies, we're finding that companies are more prepared than ever to ingest that process, to be participants in it, and to really actually crave it so that they know that they don't have to do it as a one-off. And I think what's really exciting to me is that we're seeing multiple of these companies not just say, "Oh man, that's kind of a pain." They're saying, "Great,
Right.
where do we start?"
That's right.
Here's where we're ready. You just plug us in. And so most of the companies, I would say, but I think all of them were engaged at each step with the pre-process that happened a day or two earlier before the in-person events with the Clearwater group. That's been incredible. The ability to have the companies engage in that process has been fantastic.
Love it. So I noticed, 1 in 5 applicants to this cohort came from outside the United States. Many founders are clinicians, patients, caregivers, and not career entrepreneurs. So how does this founder mix change the problems that actually get solved? Come on.
Yeah, we I think are seeing more and more that founders that have lived the reality end up being closer to the problem, end up being more passionate about the problem that they want to solve and see it less as a money-making enterprise. I think we're seeing that they are able to connect better with our champions. They're able to create the right relationships, and they're able to sort of position their product a little bit better.
Good point.
So that's just a little bit of a bias, but again, that is something that we're seeing.
It's great.
The reason international becomes an important factor here is because we want to truly make sure that we're getting the right technologies in and the right companies in. And as a Moffitt or an advocate, we get pitched by 3-4 companies a day.
Right.
So it's not like we don't have deal flow, right? But CancerX's ability to have global reach, to be able to bring the exact right technology to your doorstep, whether you've seen it or not, I think that's the differentiator, right? That's why AstraZeneca or Moffitt comes to us, because they're like, okay, you're going to give me companies that I may never have seen, and I don't want to miss out,
right?
Because I know I'm going to have to invest 18 months in bringing in whatever company I decide to bring in. True. I want to make sure I'm bringing the best company possible. Right. So that's the promise, and that's why I think our ability to sort of cast a wide net globally, I think, is really important.
Love that. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, obviously, as a public-private partnership with the federal government, our focus is the U.S. market and U.S. patients, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think the openness and the understanding that we're not going to potentially create all the technology to solve all the problems in our market, and I think the ability to embrace, technology and solutions that just work for U.S. patients is something that, all potential applicants should understand. Obviously, the U.S. market's a big market. Obviously, it's a desirable one. But it's not as though the federal government has said, no, we don't want international technologies. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's what solutions to our problems can be implemented as soon as possible. And I think that support and that partnership with the federal government is key.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually fortunate to be part of that process even back in 2011. A group of us went to Cuba with the State Department, actually researching, because Cuba has the lowest infant mortality rate in the world, and they have some of the best community care with the most limited resources. But they provide some of the highest care because of their structure and the way the physicians are spread out in their communities and the nurses and the hierarchy. So again, we would research globally for the best care and wherever it is, and kind of learn and bring it back here. So love that. Kamal, you've built and scaled digital health ventures from within an academic medical center, an academic cancer center. What is the single most common reason a promising oncology startup never makes it out of the pilot phase? I know that's one of the reasons why CancerX was kind of created. You guys can help with that. But what's some of your insight there from all your experience?
You only have 26 minutes.
I was just going to say, he looked at the clock saying,
this is the third time I'm going to get dinged for time.
No, that's great. No. Yeah.
Honestly, it's I'm going to speak on both sides of this, right? On the one hand, sometimes you get founders that are very enamored by the problem and are so enamored by the problem that they can't actually see the forest for the trees, right? You have to understand that your solution needs to live in a larger ecosystem. It has to be connected. It has to have multiple stakeholders and touch points. And if you're thinking about your solution as the only thing and it's super siloed, it's never going to work. On the other hand, you have career businessmen that only see the forest and don't see the trees and miss out on the details, and they're not able to actually get product market fit in a way that actually speaks to the eventual stakeholder that's using it. And so I've seen both sides of that, and I think both are reasons why you don't succeed.
Right.
And medicine in general is complex enough where you want to make sure that that end stakeholder on the ground is as excited about your idea as the CFO, who's 1,000 levels removed. So how do you match and make sure that all the 8 to 10 stakeholders in that entire chain are excited, understand the value, understand the ROI, understand why, and understand the feasibility of it, and are fully aligned with it? When you have that, that's the only time your tech is going to work. So think about a small startup company with limited resources and trying to do that in complex organizations, super hard. This is why 80% fail.
Yeah. Excellent. Anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah. I think they also fail because large organizations are afraid of speed. And even more so than the internet, I think, which us three have certainly lived through as adults. The AI revolution is rapidly changing everything, right? So things that were true 3 months ago when we did, or 6 months ago when we did our podcast, are very different now.
Right.
I think people, especially in healthcare, are very afraid of how quickly things need to change and technology needs to adapt. And we talked about this earlier. I'm a fan of just releasing the technology and letting the market decide. I understand that people want guardrails because
you're
it's healthcare.
responsible. End of the day, you're still responsible.
Correct.
I think that's important.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the biggest reasons is that healthcare institutions specifically, and I think historically with good reason, but this is going to require a significant mind shift. I think we're afraid of rapid change. Right. It's just something that makes people very uncomfortable. And I think
health systems.
Right. And correct. And I think small businesses, that's all they live and breathe.
Correct.
Right.
They
pivot from one day to the next. They have to. Yeah. And so whether it's the founder that, has a very specific frame of mind and, but wants to move fast, whether it's the healthcare institution where there's disjointed understanding of what the technology is, I think one underpinning across all of that is that speed is not something that healthcare institutions are used to. And this, to adapt and to implement AI and technology for these digital health companies is something that requires speed. If because a technology that was developed 6 months ago that hasn't changed is now out of date.
I love it. So let's give some plug to certainly Rush, Atlantic Health, AstraZeneca, and Novartis, who recently joined as new champions. What is the signal when organizations like that want to be inside this ecosystem, and what does it mean for startups? I mean, the timing here is perfect. We didn't even match that, but since you guys have this new cohort coming in August, and so. But tell me, give me some reasons there. This is significant for these startups.
I can just quickly do one, and then Nainesh, if you want to do another. So Rush is a great example, right? They are a emerging cancer center. They're really good, but they want to get better.
Right.
They have an opportunity to leapfrog a lot of our organizations and how we, organically developed over the last 20 years, right? So they are coming in at a point where AI is so strong. They're like, hey, I don't need to go through the pain that you guys went through 20 years ago. Let me just quickly adopt these technologies and get going, right? So huge opportunity. This is amazing for them. On the other hand, for our startups, an organization like Rush is very different from an organization like Moffitt or Advocate. And so that gives you a completely different setting to be able to go try out your solutions. And it's much smaller, it's more targeted, it is in a different geography. Illinois is a very special market. And your payer mix are different, your patients look different. And so for our startups, it's great variation in being able to say, oh, if it didn't work here, maybe it'll work here. And for Rush, it's an opportunity to leapfrog and actually start to lead from the front without having to go through the pain that we kind of have gone through. So that's an example of how Rush benefits a significant amount, how our startups benefit a significant amount of being there. And the event we had at Rush was amazing because we literally had people in the audience, doctors in the audience, in between our startup pitches, get up and be like, I want that. How do I get that started, right? And that was that energy was amazing.
I love that. I just learned something. I love that.
Yeah. So he described Rush. If you look at Novartis and AstraZeneca, the pessimist in me would say the companies at large would see this as an investment to get more of their products sold, right? I don't actually believe that that's true, quite frankly. I think in the first place, it's a little bit of a leap of faith to participate in these. You're asking your leaders to spend time to travel, to give valuable input into these ecosystems. They're investing in the consortium model. So I think what they're recognizing is the ability to get what they believe is transforming therapy to patients sooner, whether it's through these companies, it's maybe there's verticals that they can adopt, and they're recognizing that there's limitations to their scientific breakthroughs, right? Digital technology and digital health is not their core business. And so everybody's trying to figure out how to best implement. I think it's a beacon that represents their acceptance of the fact that cancer is complex.
Right.
They're not going to do it all on their own. They're great at drug discovery. They're great at commercialization and distribution. They're great at clinical trials. But there's plenty of areas that they would like to see other people find solutions, whether it's clinical trial matching, it's clinical trial process, right? One of our cohort companies, Banting AI, does just that. All they do is take the back-end processing of clinical trials and try to shrink that time so that site activation time reduces, and you can actually activate numbers of clinical trials more. So I just think that the pharmaceutical companies are seeing holes where they know that they believe in their core technologies, and they're trying to figure out a way to really impact. And the last thing I'll say is, to Kamal's original point, the personal experiences from the people that are involved on behalf of these organizations is real. Obviously, we all believe that cancer touches everybody, but everybody over and over and over again has shared whatever their personal journey is with their loved ones or themselves. And it's very clear that people are kind of dropping the commercial hat and are saying, listen, how do we actually solve this? Right. And I think that's actually the most exciting to me. And that's why I think you get these influential people from a lot of these pharmaceutical companies saying, yeah, we need to do this.
Right.
We don't need to see the ROI today. Yeah. We don't care. We're doing it.
Right. I think so pushing onto the health system side a little bit, what's the most important thing a health system leader or clinician can do to be generally a useful partner to an early stage company? Not just a customer, but a real collaborator. Because that's exactly what you guys are doing inside the cohorts.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll tell you, sort of, we're challenging our stakeholders right now on this, right? So generally, if a company seems to meet the need that you are putting out, that is the only time we'll match you up, right? So from day one, you're going to be engaged with companies that you have asked for, right? If after that it doesn't work, there's reasons beyond the product that it's not working, right? And I think that the best thing you can do is be completely transparent and honest about what that is. This year, my challenge to our champion stakeholders was, you said you needed A, B, and C. I got you companies matching A, B, and C. You haven't really picked up on C. I need to know that before we move forward to cohort number 4.
Right.
Because we need to know exactly what went wrong so we can either select better or we truly understand that you don't really want C, you're just talking about C, right? And we stop wasting the startup's time. Or we can help pick the right maybe nuance that we're missing, right? Because we can't get better at a selection process unless we understand what's failing. I'm not going to keep getting you C over and over again, just hoping that you'll pick it up, right? We need to know why that's not getting picked up. And so as a community, I think that's the most helpful we can be. And we can also start to publish that on a more generic basis, de-identify it, right? To tell startups, these are the things why something that we thought would work hasn't worked. And this is what you need to work on before you start joining us.
Love that.
So I'll add the health system perspective as well, because I agree with everything you said. In the first place, to your point about the individual clinicians or researchers collaborating, I think the best thing they can do is self-advocate for support from their organizations that this is an important project and topic. And where I'm coming from is to say, listen, if you're going to spend 6 hours a week with a cohort company,
Right.
it can't just be out of your own hide, so to speak.
Right.
Right. It doesn't mean that you're going to get paid extra. It doesn't mean that you're formally going to get protected time or things like that. But I do think the chairs of the departments, the heads of the medical groups, the CFOs of the organizations need to understand that this is important work that contributes to the reduction in the mortality of cancer, and whatever way they can be supported is something that's very important.
Are you guys looking for more champions for cohort 4?
Always.
Okay, awesome. Love that. So kind of maybe the final question here for both of you. CancerX works across cancer prevention, diagnostic treatment, care coordination, and survivorship. Which of those areas do you think is most underserved by the current innovation pipeline and most likely to be transformed by a cohort like this?
Screening and prevention.
That was a little bit too quick. We have more time. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I can keep going, but I think it's screening and prevention.
Love it. Come on.
I agree with that. And then one that you didn't mention, end of life.
So, and we've talked about that before on air. Take a moment here to talk about some of the most promising, again, we don't use the word cure, but what can people do as cancer patients or, screening prevention, but getting second opinions? Give a real optimistic, I kind of want to close also, we're talking about the segments, and this is pretty optimistic, but I want to talk about, I have a loved one, I might get cancer, I have cancer, or it happens, something that may happen in the future, or a loved one, our community, friends. Give me some optimism, both of you. So, but start off with, obviously screening prevention, second opinion. We talked about all these things in the past, but give me a blurb on that.
Yeah, so keep up with your screenings, please. Yes, colonoscopies can be painful, just get it done. It's not more painful than getting stage 4 cancer, trust me.
No,
right?
and actually, I had it 7 years ago. I'm doing about a year and a half for my follow-on. It wasn't that bad. Absolutely worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So keep up with the screening schedule, but more importantly than the generic screening schedule is there's a lot of companies now that are helping you personalize that, right? Based on family history, based on genetic risk, based on lifestyle factors. If you're a smoker, your colonoscopies need to start at 35 as an example, right? So there's all these ways in which you can personalize that for yourself. So do that. That's number one. So prevention is better than cure. Number two, if you have anything, any suspicion, anything, leave wherever you are and go to one of the top 5 cancer centers. No question. Outside of that, it's a little bit of a gamble, but when you're there, you're going to be sure. Third thing, always, no matter who you're showing it to, always get a second opinion in cancer. Cancer is unique, where literally even physicians will agree with it because most of our patients go through tumor board, which is basically an organic second opinion that these physicians go through. So give yourself the peace of mind. Always get a second opinion, no matter where you're showing. If you do these 3 things, you're very, very likely to be matched with the right diagnosis, with the right treatment, with the right precision. Factors that will get you to the best possible treatment. Then starts the whole journey of getting the treatment. And again, that's all on you and how you want to figure that out. And always be thinking about what you want out of this and know whether you can have honest conversations with the right people. And if you don't have those in your care team, then make sure you have those in care team. And what I mean by that is, a patient advocate, as an example, super underrated.
Right.
But they will be your Sherpas through the process and help you understand when it's time to start having conversations about end of life, when it's time to start having conversations about quality of life versus survival, right? Those questions are important to have and address. And if you have someone like a patient advocate by your side, I think that they can make the process a lot easier for you.
Love it. Thank you, Dr. Optimism. 30 seconds.
Yes, I'll make it easy. I agree with everything you said, and I'll just highlight the one point: advocacy. Whether it's self-advocacy, it's a third-party patient advocate that you can hire and pay. Volunteers do it. If it's a family member, anywhere in that journey, whether it's screening, it's prevention, nutrition, social exposures like smoking, drugs, vaping, environmental exposures like the sun, sunscreen, anything requires advocacy. If you have the advocates in your corner, whether it's internal or they're people around you, that will actually impact your likelihood of dying from cancer. So advocacy, I think, is wildly underestimated in this day and age. You're not alone, but it's incumbent upon you to find the advocates that are going to be there for you in your life. And I think that is something that we don't ever think about.
That's a great point. And I think what we're getting more and more of is education. We're learning more how to take better care of ourselves. Too many people, in the last couple seconds, are ignoring that. I mean, as we're watching obesity and overweight kind of skyrocket, but we've got to start turning that tide and taking care of ourselves physically, much more mentally as well. But doctors, thank you so much. Fantastic show, and we'll certainly carry this forward.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And that's a wrap from here at Moffitt Cancer Center. Many thanks to my good friends Kamal and Nainesh for joining me. A great spectrum of shows covering cancer innovation, best practices, but also the key to success, happiness, and the importance of mentoring. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, and look forward to many more shows coming from this campus and probably Tampa in general, as these good friends and I look to bring this great content to you. And hopefully you find it as, again, encouraging and enlightening as myself. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much.